10年ですか。いろいろなことがありましたね。
フリーレン。
フリーレン、あなたはやはり優しい子です。
たった10年一緒に旅しただけだし、なんでもっと知ろうと思わなかったんだろう。
フリーレン。
What would you do if you woke up one day and discovered that you achieved 9 near immortality? Would you read and watch all the books and shows you have always wanted to see? Or would you take this opportunity to travel wherever you want to go? Or maybe you would waste more time on a game that you can seemingly never get good at no matter how long you play, and you start having an existential crisis, asking yourself why you even did this in the first place? No? Just me? Oh well, but you know what else gives me existential crises? The manga of Susanoo Frieren, or Frieren Beyond Journey's End. We follow this elf, Frieren, who has way too much time on her hands. You Sylphie fans have a new elf to fill the void that consumes us since part 1 of MT just ended. I first read the manga a while back when it started gaining popularity, and it didn't take long for me to realize what made it so special. To what seems to be a simple story of following a group of characters that call themselves the Hero's Party, it takes on a unique twist. And from that twist comes one of the most immersive, beautiful, and poignant pieces of fiction that I have ever read. Besides Mushoku Tensei, of course. Quick disclaimer, as a person who has read the manga, I wanted to point out what I thought was done spectacularly by the anime. I won't be spoiling any events past what has been adapted so far. Let's get into the video. Studio Madhouse's adaptation of Susanoo Frieren honestly blew me away. You can tell that they are genuinely passionate about this adaptation, as each scene is treated faithfully and with care. But anyone can say that an anime had a good adaptation, as everyone has their own interpretations. What does Studio Madhouse do to make this stand out from the rest of the good adaptations out there? It's simple. They took what the manga had already done well and elevated it to another level. Despite the limitations that come with manga in general, the manga of Susanoo Frieren created an immersing atmosphere with its beautiful artwork and clever use of panels. It's the type of manga that could be brought to its full potential with great animations, music, and voice acting, and Studio Madhouse ticked all the boxes and more. It seems like 2-hour special releases like Susanoo Frieren attract Japanese pop super duo Yoasabi to play in their openings, similar to what happened with the Oshinoko franchise. I also assumed that the opening would have a much more peaceful vibe to it, but to my surprise, it somehow worked, and the visuals foreshadowed many plot points and themes that are very relevant to the story moving forward. And don't get me started on just how beautiful and unique the ending sequence looks and sounds. With the same artist Millet that did the second ED of Villain Saga Season 1 Drowned, I kid you not when I say that when I first saw it, I just stared at it in awe. However, the anime started very strongly by making an audible impression on me. The OSTs remind me of the soundtrack of the Ori franchise, a platform adventure game with beautiful visuals and an amazing soundtrack, something this anime also has. Take this scene for example, with serene, almost magical music easing you into the beginning of the show, with moments of it ramping up to signify an important visual like an establishing shot of the royal capital, or even significant dialogue between the characters, to finally escalating beautifully to the name of the show, was all a masterclass in the use of a soundtrack. I did a bit of research and found out that the person composing the music is none other than Evan Call, who has worked on different shows like Violet Evergarden and even Jose the Tiger and the Fish. If you have seen any of these animes, you'll know just how beautifully atmospheric and symphonic his music is, a perfect fit for a show that relies heavily on its atmosphere. And speaking of its atmosphere, the sound effects that encompass the multiple segments of the episode feel realistic and distinct. When I was watching it, it almost felt like I could understand what was happening without having to look at it directly. This and the music tie in to create tranquil and impactful moments throughout the episodes. Another thing that the anime did incredibly well is the most obvious one, the visuals and animation. To pair with the god-tier music Evan Call composed is the fluidity and movie-level animation and visuals of the show. If I had to compare it to something, it felt similar to the recent map animations released this year, but without the over-realistic movements. But you would think a show like this would mainly rely on the slow vibes to engross you in its world, but scenes of full-on action take the spotlight from time to time. And damn was Studio Madhouse not messing around. They also nailed the character designs and color palettes. The colors are not overwhelming, yet they stand out just enough to be memorable. To tie everything together, the voice acting and group of seiyuu they selected fit perfectly for each of the characters. I am not joking when I say they sound exactly like what I imagined them to sound when I read the manga. The voice actors exceeded my expectations and managed to bring these characters to life in a way that I didn't think was possible. As a manga reader, I confirmed that they have been pacing the adaptations of these episodes perfectly, without skipping anything at all. There are even moments where they drew more than what the manga portrayed, all to further immerse us. I'm not sure how long they will keep this perfection, but so far they haven't missed a mark. But what is Susanoo Frieren really about? Well, we follow our cast of characters not at the beginning, but at the end of their journey. Interestingly enough, other than Frieren, the anime doesn't give us the names of the characters when they were on the cart, instead filling the air with nostalgia, almost as if we already knew them. We then learn their names, the four Hero Himmel, Warrior Aizen, Priest Hyder, and Mage Frieren. They have just returned from a triumphant adventure, defeating the Demon King. As the kingdom falls into celebration, they reflect on their impactful decade-long journey together. However, the passing of time is very different for elves, as their lifespans can span for millenniums, and before she even realizes it, the hero Himmel passes away. It's the journey that she goes on after where the core of the story lies. The first episode establishes the setting, the cast of the hero's party, and just what type of message this show wants to tell. The second episode was essentially the setup for what the bulk of the story is made of. But what makes this show worth watching? That answer lies within many introspective aspects that tie in to beautifully convey its themes. One of those aspects is something I'll refer to as passing moments. If there's one thing that I remember fondly from the manga is the way it uses panels to express passing moments in the world, immersing you despite having no words. Yet something always felt missing. Manga lacks moving visuals and music, and Studio Madhouse delivered on both. Similar to how I felt when I watched the first season of Mushoku Tensei. Yes, I know that is a big statement, but I implore you to watch it on your own. You'll see what I mean. These passing moments could span over a few days, 6 months, 4 years, or even 50 years. All are condensed into a few enthralling scenes that perfectly tell you what happened during that time frame, without the need for words. These moments also offer world-building tidbits, like a young clerk Frieren meets later on revealed as a senior, and the significance of a horn in Frieren's book, which becomes relevant later on. From what can be easily perceived as filler, little details are sprinkled throughout them, rewarding you if you pay attention to them. These little details are also frequently spread throughout each episode, subtly building the world while also providing context to the history and narrative of the story. Some examples are these little shrines from what I can assume could be offerings for the religions of that world. Even the inclusion of a world map that is much more detailed than anything the manga has released so far. They use these in tandem with the introduction titles that appear on screen when Frieren arrives at different destinations, allowing the viewer to keep track of where she is at any point in the story. But with any adaptation, one of the most important aspects of creating an engaging story is the characters. And the cast of characters in this show has always been one of the manga's selling points. Even in a fantasy world, they follow their stereotypes without being overly unrealistic. Hero Himmel follows the trope of a righteous hero, who always strives to help anyone in need. Haiter, the priest of the group, has a personality that contrasts his status, in that he simply loves drinking his liver out and doesn't exactly say priestly things, yet still is a kind and understanding person. Aizen, the warrior of the group, truly fits the image of a dwarf. A man of few words, but each time he speaks feels meaningful and genuine. But if there is one thing that they share in common with each other and what grounds them as characters, is the fact that they know that their lives are short. Take Himmel for example. He was the leader of the party, and anyone who met him learned very quickly of his true nature. A genuine, kind soul, never once hesitated to put his life on the line to help others, no matter who they were. Yet still has moments of smugness as he commonly flaunts how handsome he is, making him feel that much more human. But even he had his regrets. Whether it's unfulfilled promises or people he fears he will leave behind once he's gone, Himmel knew that death was inevitable. But it's his faith in his actions that allow him to firmly believe that everything he did was worth it. But his faith not only extends to that, as it influences those around him, like Haiter. He has lived a life of reckless drinking, carefree behavior, and using his religion as a reason for everything he does. He even stated that he doesn't fear the thought of dying. His companions frequently call him a corrupt priest, to which each time he brushes it off with a hearty laugh. It's not that he is a bad person, he just isn't the type to volunteer to help someone. After all, he is in Himmel, but even he falls into the thought process every human goes through, the idea of needing a bit more time. With his days numbered, he thought he always planned to live off the rest of his days quietly. But seeing Fern, an orphan who lost everything to war, nearly try and end it all, made him come to a decision that he presumably had on his mind for those past 20 years. If he were to die not doing anything for himself and Fern, all the courage, strength of will, and friendship that he learned from Himmel, and even all his precious memories would vanish from this world. This was his way of redeeming himself. However, his time as a priest was not all that corrupted, as some of his morals served as lessons for those who found it hard to believe in anything but tradition. Like Aizen, being from the dwarf race, their lifespans are considerably longer than that of humans, and throughout this world's history, they are known to value tradition over everything else, so they don't believe in the concept of an afterlife. Such beliefs were what Aizen carried with him throughout his life, but even one born into such customs was able to open his mind to other possibilities. Such possibilities were brought up by the corrupt priest Haiter, when he kneels to pray for Aizen's family tombstones. As you can imagine, they argued slightly over their different beliefs, and ironically enough, Haiter himself doesn't care if heaven exists or not. But even if it doesn't exist, he believes that it should, simply because it's more convenient that way. All those people who are doing their best to live deserve something better than nothingness awaiting them. Thus, he prefers to think that people get to live the good life in heaven. Such a statement had a profound impact on Aizen, as he took this statement to heart, and continued to pray even after all those years. The fear of death is immeasurable, and it's something that inevitably comes for all. But the countless adventures and influence they had on each other changed their perception of death and life. And this theme is consistent within most of the characters we meet in the story. But such short-lived individuals could not possibly comprehend what goes through the mind of the mage Frieren, a being that comes from a race that is known to live for millenniums. Frieren has always traveled alone, and without a real purpose, simply satisfying her desire to collect random spells. 50 or even 100 years could be something trivial to her, making it understandable why she may act so apathetically. It's hard to appreciate something like time when she has so much of it. Even that journey of 10 years traveling across the continent to defeat the Demon King was practically ephemeral to her. However, such experiences that didn't even take up 1/100th of her life subconsciously affected her. It was only at that moment when the final patches of dirt covered the coffin of Himmel, never to be seen again, was when Frieren finally realized something. It's not like she knew anything about him. After all, they only traveled together for a mere 10 years. She knew knew that human lives were short, so why did she not try to get to know him better? She felt more human than ever, not realizing that she lost something until it was truly gone. I find it sadly ironic that an individual such as her with an absurd amount of time on her hand realized that she didn't have enough time. But now, as poignant memories of her time with the hero's party start resurfacing, she embarks on a new journey, one where she wants to learn more about humans. It is this journey that we will follow, where Frieren is slowly learning in her own way what it means to appreciate life, the journey after the end. So once again, why should you watch this show? If you simply want to enjoy a beautiful fantasy world with rich history and world building, an engrossing atmosphere with genuinely immersing music and animation to pair, then give the show a watch. But if you are here to enjoy the slow journey of a long-lived elf as she confronts her regrets and slowly comes to appreciate a thing we call life, then I highly recommend you watch Sousou no Frieren. Thank you for watching. We recently hit 4K subs, and frankly I'm not sure what to do with all this growth, but all I can do is give my gratitude to you guys for all the support. This video ended up turning more into a review instead of first impressions, but there's honestly so much to talk about within each episode that it was difficult for me to create a video talking about all of them. But I still have another video idea that I've had on my mind for quite some time. Let's hope it doesn't take 2 weeks to make as it did for this video. Look forward to it.